okay, we're all expecting a victory tomorrow. Coach Babcock's expecting it. Everyone's expecting it. What tomorrow would take place that would surprise you? If there's something that would throw you about tomorrow, what would it be?
Probably nothing. I shouldn't say nothing, but I am, I think I'm kind of going more towards that Canada's going to dominate more than originally thought. And not necessarily just this game in the tournament. I mean, I'm going back to our last two in Europe on the big ice where we haven't done well, and I still think it's going to be harder than people think. But our lineup, our coaches, our only weak point might be our goaltending, but I can't say that as a weak point. But what we do have is a bunch of crazy good, young, vibrant leaders that are some of the best, that are the best in the world. And it starts with Taze and Kane. And you look at those two big, tall buddies in Anaheim are doing. They're winners. You got a Bergeron on your team that, might get limited action. That is one of the heaviest players on our planet. I think we're going to dominate tomorrow. So I'd be surprised if we didn't. But at the same hand, it's the first game, getting used to everything. Norway is, you would want to roll up them at 2 a.m. at the bar, if you know what I'm saying. These guys are crazy. So it could, pretty much anything can happen tomorrow, but I expect our boys to do pretty well and look really smooth and get people more excited than they were. And then the balls and the games are off and running.
Marty Turco joining us here on Tim and Sid. Chris Pronger was on Hockey Central at noon earlier today, and he was talking about Torino, and he was talking about the team never really gelled. Do different teams take different times to gel?
Yeah, they certainly do. I think having no family over there is on their side in terms of the gelling part. Also, it depends on the makeup and the learning experiences. And a lot of these guys are, not to say that our Torino team wasn't dedicated, but I think the staff in Hockey Canada remembers a lot what this was like. Hitchcock was there. Eisman was in the background. Doug Armstrong was around. So it is pretty vivid for people, and that's huge. And the coaches take this well into account years ago, how they want the team to gel together. So coaches have a big deal with it, but the players do too. And looking up and down that roster, knowing every one of them at least a little bit, they're all pretty jovial, fun, dedicated, and serious hockey players, but their locker room antics aren't anything to wonder if any of them couldn't gel. So that's certainly going to help. Being in Russia, being a Canadian hockey player, thinking, man, I'm in Russia because Summit Series was here. There's a lot of history and a lot of things to really think about and to make you focus. But there's nothing more important. Canadians know better than any as hockey players that being a team will always help your chances. So, but every team is different. You're right, but this team will come together pretty quick, I think.
Marty Turco, he was there in 06 in Torino, and he's here with us here on Tim and Sid. Marty, when you look at the roster up and down, in your opinion, has this been constructed in a way that will get over the shortcomings of 06 on that ice? Has this roster been put together differently enough to kind of get those mistakes out of there?
Yeah, definitely. And they weren't mistakes. Only mistakes because we lost, and I guess we could argue the terminology or whatever adjective we want to describe that.
Mistakes is a harsh word, Marty. You're right.
But it's true. You win. No one cares, right?
True. Well, they care to
beat
you down enough. So there's got to be some passion in there. But it was deserved. We lacked scoring, obviously, but we lacked a little Canadian passion that I thought maybe would have been a little more evident, just because when it's easy to get down in the pitfalls or when they're coming at you quick in a short tournament, you got to just get over them collectively and individually. And we couldn't get out of our own way offensively and find a rhythm. And everyone thought it would just disappear, but you got to work at it. You got to speak your mind. You got to beat your chest. You got to argue. I mean, that's you just get the best out of people. But this team in 2014 is constructed as one of the best teams you've seen on paper in a long time. The only thing it might lack is some pedigree in terms of games played. Overall experience is 30 years old. That's compared to some other teams, but at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It's built to win. It's built for speed with leadership. Every position's covered. You've got some really super versatile players that could fill roles if guys get hurt or struggle or what have you. And our defense has got some heavy shooting, but they're all pretty big, pretty strong, and they're really mobile. And, for what Duncan Keith might lack in size, if the Russian forward's coming down on him, the guy didn't win a Norris Trophy by mistake. He's quick with the stick and headsy as anybody in our back end, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch these guys go at it with the compassion they're going to have wearing that Canadian jersey.
Marty Turco is joining us here on Tim and Sid. The Swedes and Slovaks played earlier today. I'm not sure if you got a chance to see much of it, but when I saw the Swedish roster, I was pretty impressed. I mean, defense pretty good, forwards pretty good, and they look pretty good jumping out to a 4-0 lead. If you had a dark horse in this tournament, if you had a team to ride other than Canada, who would it be?
Well, I don't think anybody really can be called a dark horse other than Switzerland or even a Finland, but they seem to just master the bronze medal all the time anyway. So only those two teams are true dark horses. Underestimated, I think the Russians are, because their back end isn't as strong, and not too many Noble Varlamov in Colorado. He's fabulous goaltender, and as much passion as we play with in our country, as we've seen in the World Juniors, the Olympics over the years. Can you imagine the Russians playing at home, how hard these guys are going to play?
It's going to be...
It's going to piss off some NHL owners, I think, when they realize how hard some of their guys can actually play for multiple games at a time. That's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but kind of serious at the same matter. So I really like the Russians at home. The Swedes, formidable lineup as any. The Czechs got skill and grit when they get committed. They could get dusted off pretty easy, but and the Americans too. You can't really count those guys out. The goaltending alone can win themselves, but they got some talented forwards and pretty good defensemen too.
I said Slovakia. Obviously, Czech Republic was the game today.
Marty, they were a goal away from winning the tournament. The United States roll into this. They had the MVP in Ryan Miller. They were as close as anyone else. And I think when we're looking at this tournament big picture, obviously Canada's our focus. We're fascinated by how Russia's going to do. The Swedes have a quality team. I still don't think we're talking up the States enough.
No. You know what? It's I totally agree with you, and it has a lot to do with that Ryan Miller's playing just as well as he was going to last Olympics, and he's not going to be the guy. It's going to be Jonathan Quick. They think they have the one goal in the tournament that rises to the occasion more than any, and you can't really argue with him too. The guy likes the big game, and it just seems like it comes Stanley Cup playoff times. Is he playing for his country a different animal? That remains to be seen, but they certainly had a really interesting subplot for kind of being Canada's little brother, so to speak, in terms of hockey history and nostalgia. They got some pretty cool stuff too, and most importantly, as the president sits in their future, which bodes well too, is the players that they have. They got 4 lines as formidable. They couldn't put two teams as well as we could, or even 3 teams together. But man, their top team is good, and you're exactly right. They were a shot away from just a goal away from winning the gold medal and beating us in Vancouver. These guys are darn good. I really like their defense. There are a couple of their lines. They got some of the best talented players in the tournament. When you start talking about Kessel with his game just to score goals, and certainly Parise and Patrick Kane. Man, these guys are going to be a real treat to watch on the open ice.
Marty, one final thing before we let you go. Carey Price is going to start tomorrow. We will assume it will be Roberto Luongo against Austria on Friday. Who, in your opinion, on Sunday afternoon Eastern time, starts against Finland?
Carey Price. I think that's what they believe internally. I even don't think much will change after the game unless he completely lays an egg. I think he'll be the guy come Sunday against Finland when we start playing for real, so to speak.
I'm with you. Marty, good catching up with you. Thanks for taking the maiden voyage with us, and hopefully we didn't turn you off from coming back ever again.
That takes a lot more to discourage me. But,
well, that's good for us.
You both could be up to. I think you guys could be up to the task for that, though.
We might push it, but hopefully you can stick around, Marty. I'm with it. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate it.
All right.